Hello again, my lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. Uh, as I told you in my last video on Friday, I want to just preface that it might come to some uh, delays in future uploads due to problems with my internet, and I'll need to use public internet from now on. So, without further ado, why don't we go into the next chapter of Inko Midoriya Meets the League? Written by FangGirl48 on AO3. Chapter 8. Breakfast with the Bakugos. Wide-pink eyes stared at the blonde woman as she towered over Giran's fallen form. Red eyes glared down at the man, her fist falling back down to her side. Masaru sighed behind his wife, looking over at Inko as she hugged a blonde girl, shrugging. "You bastard!" Mitsuki whispered dangerously, stepping into Inko's apartment and glaring downwards at the broker. "Where the hell have you been?" The brunette Bakugo walked in after his wife, quickly shutting the door. It was only a matter of time before Mitsuki blew her top, as loud as his wife could get. Adding to the old woman across the hall might lead to people calling the police. Neither woman liked each other, so a fight always ensued whenever they were within sight of each other. Pushing his glasses up slightly, Masaru pinned the shocked members of the League of Villains down with his cold stare before moving on to Inko. "Inko?" He spoke, pure ice in his tone. "An explanation, if you please." 5 minutes earlier. Crash! Inko and Himiko shot up in the bed. Quickly throwing off the blankets, the two females ran down the halls, running straight into Dabi and Tomura as they exited Inko's office. The four crumpled to the floor in a mess of limps. "Ah!" came another shout. Having years of experience on his side, Dabi detangled himself first and ran towards the source of the shouting. Entering the living room again, he saw Twice curled up, face pressed into a pillow, so hard it looked like he was trying to suffocate himself with it. Spinner, Compress, and Giran stood just a little away from the impromptu bed, looking afraid. "What happened?" Tomura asked, coming up behind Dabi. "Twice!" Himiko leapt towards the man, only to be pushed back. Time froze for a moment as Himiko hit the floor with a loud thump. Twice lifted his head slightly, staring at his hand in horror before he started screaming again. Thankfully, the pillow he was pressing his face into muffled most of the sound. Bang, bang, bang! Everyone jumped, flinching at the sound. Inko moved to go to answer the door, but Giran stopped her with a wave of his hand. As much as the broker loved his sister, whoever was at the door needed to leave quickly, and Giran was a much more intimidating figure than Inko was. Walking to the door, Giran was fully expecting the old woman Inko had warned them about, or perhaps another neighbor to be on the other side. Instead, Mitsuki's face greeted him. Both of their eyes whitened before a fist launched itself at Giran's face. Back to the present. "Attorney-client meeting?" Inko answered nervously. The Bakugos looked at the League of Villains, the people who had kidnapped their only child, whose actions led to Kamino Ward and the guilt Katsuki felt about All Might. Realistically, the couple should be angry. No, furious even. Not only with the group, but also Inko herself, who, as Katsuki's godmother, should already know their feelings towards the villains, but seeing their disheveled appearances and the crying man on what looked like a rather large bed, they swallowed their feelings. Strolling over to the masked man, Masaru sat behind him, placing one hand on his shoulder. Twice's hands shot out again, but years of living with Katsuki had made the Bakugo patriarch an unmovable mountain. Go away, go away, go away! Twice chanted as he continued pushing. Stay, stay, stay! Tilting his head, Masaru gave his most friendly smile. Do you want me to stay? Or should I go? Stay! No, go! No, stay! Twice clenched his head. All the voices were telling him different things. He just wanted them to shut up for me. I don't know. Yes, I do. Swinging his legs on the bed, Masaru leaned back. Do you like French toast? You could hear a pin drop by how silent it suddenly got. French toast? Twice said, eyes widening as he looked at the man. I don't know. It's my favorite. I haven't had it in years. That's a lie. I had it last week. Inko, Mitsuki, that's my wife over there. Masaru waved at the blonde as she kept Giran pinned to the floor under her heel. We normally all get together for breakfast once a month. Since it was my turn to pick, I thought maybe French toast would be a good change of pace. Oh. Twice said, his body visibly relaxing. Masked eyes looked closely at the man, studying him before the turn at Mitsuki. You do look familiar. I know who you are. Oh, right, Masaru smiled. My name's Masaru Bakugo. The lady pinning your friend down under her shoe is my wife, Mitsuki. Tamura and Dabi instantly adopted the face of someone who sucked on a lemon. Himiko's eyes narrowed before she pointed at the pair. Ah! You're Explosion Boy's parents! Mitsuki looked over at Himiko, a savage grin coming to her face that the league shivering at the memory of another blonde. Was it a Bakugo trait to have such a fierce look? That's right! Mitsuki nodded, pulling her shoe off of Giran and cracking her knuckle. The broker took the chance to slip away, getting up and hiding behind Spinner for protection. And you lot are idiots who kidnapped my brat! Mi-chan! Inko's voice cut through everything. The more petite woman as she glared at her oldest friend, her form intimidating, even though she was in her pajamas. Please, they're my guests. They saved me. Instantly, Mitsuki was in front of Inko, looking her over. What happened? Are you okay? You're not hurt. I'm fine, Inko smiled. Really, the other guys... Mitsuki laughed, having a faint idea what had happened. Honestly, as strange as it was, she couldn't help but be thankful, slightly thankful to the villains. Twice every year, the Bakugo couple made sure to visit Inko on certain dates. They tried to distract her from another year without a word from Hisashi, once on his birthday and then their wedding anniversary. This year was the first time Inko didn't look like she would cry at any moment. Sliding her eyes over to the trio hovering in the door, Mitsuki's eyes zeroed in on Himiko. A second later, the girl found herself in a tight embrace. Oh my gosh, look at you! Mitsuki cooed, pulling back slightly before Himiko was hugged again. You're so pretty! No, adorable. If I had a daughter, I bet she would be just as cute as you are. Himiko returned the embrace, snuggling into the woman. You smell like candy. Great. Another one. Himiko's ultra mega adorable. Twice muttered. Masaru hummed, looking at the man. The faintest hint of a pouch showed under his mask. The villain reminded the Bakugo patriarch of Katsuki when he was young and someone took Izuku's attention from him. I doubt Mitsuki's gonna let go anytime soon. Masaru spoke softly to Twice, getting his attention. You might want to rescue your friend before she gets taken away. Twice was on his feet, instantly pulling Himiko out of Mitsuki's clutches and hugging her. Hands off, lady! Just kidding! Himiko's my little sister! No, she's not! The entire league, plus Giran's eyes widened. They all knew Twice cared a lot for Himiko and doted on her like a little sister, but this was the first time he had ever said anything out loud. Mitsuki looked at Twice and Himiko. The latter's face was completely red in embarrassment before looking at the duplication users, throwing her hands up in surrender. Mitsuki instead reached out and ran a finger over the black and white mask. Frowning at the feel of cheap fabric, Mitsuki looked at her husband. "We still have that leftover fabric in the car, right?" "Of course," Masaru nodded, reading his wife's mind. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" Instead of answering, the pair shared a look that had Inko sighing as she left to go get changed. Honestly, people wondered how the pair stayed married so long, being so different, but Inko knew the truth. Both Bakugos had a strong desire to be number one, just like Katsuki did. All you had to do was replace the word hero with designer. The pair's competitive nature, in school together, had them challenging each other over the stupidest little things. Inko and Mitsuki had gotten drunk at one time after Masaru beat her in a group project. The lawyer could barely remember the night, but she did recall telling her friend that Masaru was kinda cute. That one little remark was all the blonde needed for her to realize something. By the end of the week, the two rivals were going on their first date. Inko had still the picture of Masaru's shocked face when Mitsuki grabbed his face for their first kiss. Chuckling to herself, Inko paused in front of her office. Suddenly she remembered that Dabi and Tomura had come out of that when Twice had started screaming. Walking into the room, something invisible seemed to draw Inko to the bookshelf. Reaching out and pulling out a specific album, Inko started flipping through the pages. One in particular caught her eye. On it, her nephew Tenko was looking at the camera. The boy couldn't have been more than 3 or 4, as he was held in Hana's arms. Looking up at the picture of her mother and older brother, Inko suddenly realized that Tenko had the same mole below his mouth that Nana Shimura had. Looking back, finding out she had family that she would never meet had affected Inko more than she thought it would. After her adoptive parents, the Midoriyas, passed away in a car crash, Inko thought she was all alone now. It wasn't that she didn't love Kachan and all her other siblings from the orphanage, but they didn't have the answers Inko had hungered for since she was old enough to wonder. Who were her parents? Why did they give her away? Getting the call that one day from the police telling Inko that her brother and his family had been in a tragic accident, Inko had dropped Izuku off at the Bakugos and boarded the first train she could. When she arrived at the police station, instead of finding answers, Inko was met with a horrible truth that her brother that she had envisioned meeting was dead. That the whole Shimura family had been killed, their house and majority of their possessions destroyed. Inko might not even know what Kotaro looked like if the album hadn't been a surprise. Now had been putting together. The woman had broken down in the police station, clutching it like a lifeline, when the detective showed it to her, telling Inko that there had been no survivors. For weeks, Inko would look through the album, memorizing the faces inside, imagining different scenarios, imagining moving closer to her brother as they fumbled through getting to know each other, chatting with Nao over tea while the kids played in the yard, chasing that little corgi Tenko seemed to adore. A few tears suddenly fell onto the picture, realizing she was crying. Inko quickly rubbed them away, closing the album and returning it. "Inko!" Startled, the lawyer jumped slightly. Turning around, she saw Tomura standing at the door, looking at her nervously. Ah, Tomura! Inko smiled, walking over to the decay villain. Had Tomura always had that mole there? How strange for it to be in the same place Nana and Tenko's was. What's wrong? Is Mi-chan bothering you all? As if on cue, voices came from the other end of the hall. Orange is a perfectly reasonable color for a coat. You look like a fucking traffic cone! Mitsuki's voice argued back. At least make it reversible or... Hey, Kachan, where the fuck do you think you're slinking off to? We still have to discuss all the gifts you owe me and the brats. I don't owe you anything, you crazy woman. You're the brat's godfather, you dumbass. Izuku's too, if Inko hadn't told you yet. The smirk could be heard in the blonde's tone. You better have that fucking wallet of yours ready. Our brats like hero merch. The rarer the better. The pair looked at each other before Tomura sighed. Your friend's loud. She's just hungry, Inko giggled. I'll be out in a moment to cook breakfast. Any preferences? Tomura shrugged. I think French toast is the only way to defeat this boss. Inko giggled before looking at Tomura curiously for a moment. Reaching out, she brushed some of his hair away, pulling back quickly when he flinched. Oh, sorry. Inko apologized, looking at Tomura's face. The lawyer was hit with the strangest sense of déjà vu. Your hair. Is this your natural color? Red eyes widened before quickly looking away. When my quirk came in, my hair changed. My eyes too. I see, Inko spoke, looking at the pale blue color. They suit you? Tomura nodded, playing with the hem of the shirt. I should get changed, Inko moved, sliding past Tomura, turning and giving him a gentle smile. You should get ready as well, while you have the chance. Who knows when the mad scramble for the bathroom will start? Tomura nodded as Inko started to move away. Inko! The decay user's voice rang out, making Inko stop in her tracks to turn and look at him. My hair and eyes, they used to be black. With that said, Tomura moved as fast as he could down the hallway, heading towards the bathroom. He was so distracted that he didn't notice Mr. Compress standing there watching him as he went by. And there we have it for today. Thank you so much for listening to the end. If you enjoyed it, why don't you consider liking and subscribing? Also, you should check out the link in the description and go head over to AO3 and give Aviskin Approved all the likes, well, kudos in that case, that they deserve. I will see you next week. Tilir signing off.